This handbook describes the various environmental conditions affecting human survival and describes isolated personnel, activities necessary to survive during successful evasion or isolating events leading to successful recovery. It is the fundamental reference document providing guidance for any USAF service member who has the potential to become isolated. Deviations require sound judgment and careful consideration. This publication provides considerations to be used in planning and execution for effective mission accomplishment of formal USAF survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, SERE, training, environmentally specific SERE training, and combat survival continuation training programs. The tactics, techniques, and procedures in this publication are recognized best practices presenting a solid foundation to assist USAF service members to maintain life and return with honor from isolating events.
History shows that the prepared IP will be more successful. This is especially true when an IP understands the hardships caused by the environment. Understanding weather patterns and being prepared for the climatic conditions likely to be encountered are extremely important to the IP.
Weather is not the same as climate, but rather the current state of the atmosphere with respect to wind, temperature, moisture, and air pressure. Climate, on the other hand, is the type of weather conditions generally prevalent over a region year after year.
The atmosphere extends upward from the surface of the Earth for several miles, gradually thinning as it approaches its upper limit. Near the Earth's surface, the air is relatively warm due to contact with the Earth. As altitude increases, the temperature decreases by about 3.0 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet until air temperature reaches about 67 degrees Fahrenheit below zero at 7 miles above the Earth. This is known as the adiabatic collapse rate. An aircrew member ejecting at altitude or a ground team operating in mountainous terrain comes to understand this relationship quickly.
Weather conditions in the lower layer of the atmosphere, troposphere, and on the Earth are affected by 4 elements: 1. Temperature, 2. Air pressure, 3. Wind, and 4. Moisture. An IP that understands and observes these elements and their corresponding effects on weather can utilize this knowledge to adjust their priorities and actions to meet their survival needs.
Temperature is the measure of the warmth or coldness of an object or substance and, for this discussion, the various parts of the atmosphere. The sunlight entering the atmosphere reaches the Earth's surface and warms both the ground and the seas. Heat from the ground and the seas then warms the atmosphere. The atmosphere absorbs the heat and prevents it from escaping into space. This process is called the greenhouse effect because it resembles the way a greenhouse works. Once the sun sets, the ground cools more rapidly than the air because it is a better conductor of heat. At night, the ground is cooler than the air, especially under a clear dry sky. Temperature also changes near the ground for other reasons. Dark surfaces are warmer than light-colored surfaces. Evening air settles in low areas and valleys, creating spots colder than higher elevations. Seas, lakes, and ponds retain heat and create warmer temperatures at night near shore. The opposite is true during the day, especially in the spring when lakes are cold. On the beach, daytime temperatures will be cooler than the temperatures on land further from shore. Knowing this will help determine where an IP should build a shelter.
Air pressure is the force of the atmosphere pushing on the Earth. The air pressure is greatly affected by temperature. Cool air is denser than warm air. As a result, warm air puts less pressure, less dense, on the Earth than cool air. A low-pressure area is formed by warm air whereas cool air forms a high-pressure area.
Wind is the movement of air from a high-pressure area to a low-pressure area. The larger the difference in pressure, the stronger the wind. On a global scale, the air around the equator is replaced by the colder air around the poles. This same convection of air on a smaller scale causes valley winds to blow upslope during the day and downslope along the mountainside at night, diurnal effects. Relatively cool air blows in from the ocean during the day due to the heating and rising of the air above the land and reverses at night, figure 6.1. This movement of air creates winds throughout the world. When cool air moves into a low-pressure area, it forces the air that was already there to move upward. The rising air expands and cools.
Moisture enters the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. Great quantities of water evaporate each day from the land and oceans, causing vapor in the air called humidity. The higher the humidity, the higher the moisture content in the air relative to air temperature. Air holding as much moisture as possible is saturated. The temperature at which the air becomes saturated is called the dew point. When the temperature decreases to below the dew point, moisture in the air condenses into drops of water. Low clouds called fog may develop when warm, moist air near the ground is cooled to its dew point with light winds only. The cooling of the air may also cause moisture to fall to the earth as precipitation, rain, snow, sleet, or hail.
In warm air over relatively cool air conditions, overrunning, when a warm front moves forward, the warm air slides up over the wedge of the colder air lying ahead of it. This warm air has relatively higher humidity. As this warm air is lifted, its temperature is lowered. As the lifting process continues, condensation may occur. Low nimbostratus and stratus clouds can form from which rain, mist, or fog may develop. As rain falls through the relatively cooler air below, increasing its moisture content while decreasing visibility. Any reduction of temperature in the colder air and increase in moisture might be caused by upslope motion or cooling of the ground after sunset, may result in extensive fog. As the warm air progresses up the slope, with constantly decreasing temperatures, clouds appear at increasing heights and thickness in the form of altostratus and cirrostratus, if the warm air is stable. If the warm air is unstable, cumulonimbus clouds and altocumulus clouds will form and may produce thunderstorms not visible to the naked eye. Finally, the air is forced up near the stratosphere, and in the freezing temperatures at that level, the condensation appears as thin wisps of cirrus clouds. The upslope movement is usually very gradual, rising about 1,000 feet every 20 miles. Thus, the cirrus clouds, forming at approximately 25,000 feet altitude, may appear as far as 300–500 miles in advance of the point on the ground which marks the position of the front. Warm fronts produce more gradual changes in the weather than do cold fronts. The changes depend chiefly on the humidity of the advancing warm air mass. If the air is dry, cirrus clouds may form and there will be little or no precipitation. If the air is humid, light, steady rain or snow may fall for several days. Warm fronts usually have light winds. The passing of a warm front may bring a sharp rise in temperature, clearing skies, and an increase in humidity, usually resulting in southerly wind directions in the northern hemisphere.
The main types of violent weather a person should be familiar with are thunderstorms, winter storms, tornadoes, and hurricanes/cyclones/typhoons, creating thunderstorms which may result in tornadoes. The IP's situational awareness regarding these phenomena will enable them to survive and, depending on the situation, use them to their advantage, that is, evasion and water procurement. Thunderstorms are the most frequent kinds of storms, figure 6.2. As many as 50,000 thunderstorms occur throughout the world each day. Thunderstorms usually occur on warm, humid days. The temperatures inside the clouds are well below freezing, which causes water vapor to condense very rapidly, forming heavy rain. Lightning causes more fatalities than any other type of weather phenomenon. In the United States alone, more than 200 lightning deaths occur each year. Hail, which sometimes accompanies the thunderstorm, can grow as large as baseballs and bring injuries, even fatalities, to IP if protective actions are not taken.
Lightning and thunder occur during the life of a thunderstorm. When the IP sees the flash of lightning, they should count the number of seconds until they hear the thunder. For every 5 seconds, it can be estimated the lightning is 1 mile away. A general rule to follow is if it is 30 seconds or less, the IP seeks shelter or protection until the danger passes. IP should avoid being in, or near, high places, open fields, isolated trees, communications towers, metal fences, open vehicles, and water. The IP should not be the highest point on the surface. If an IP is caught in a lightning storm and feel their hair stands on end, their skin tingles, or they hear crackling noises, they should crouch on the ground with their weight on the balls of the feet together, head lowered and their ears covered. Some experts recommend placing the hands on the forehead and elbows on the knees to create a path for lightning to travel to the ground through the extremities rather than through the core, heart. Tornadoes are the most violent entity within thunderstorms. Under certain conditions, violent thunderstorms will generate wind swirling in a funnel shape with rotational speeds of up to 400 miles per hour, which extends out of the bottom of the thunderstorm. When this funnel-shaped cloud touches the surface, it can cause major destruction. The path of a tornado is narrow, usually not more than a couple of 100 yards wide. Tornadoes form in advance of a cold front and are usually accompanied by heavy rain and thunder. Indications of an approaching tornado include strong, persistent rotation in the cloud base, whirling dust or debris on the ground under a cloud base. Tornadoes sometimes have no funnel. Hail or heavy rain followed by either dead calm or a fast, intense wind shift. Many tornadoes are wrapped in heavy precipitation and can be seen. Day or night, loud, continuous roar or rumble that doesn't fade in a few seconds like thunder. Night, small, bright, blue-green to white flashes at ground level near a thunderstorm, as opposed to silvery lightning up in the clouds. These mean power lines are being snapped by very strong wind, maybe a tornado. Night, persistent lowering from the cloud base, illuminated or silhouetted by lightning, especially if it is on the ground or there is a blue-green-white power flash underneath. If caught in the open during a tornado, lie flat and face down on low ground. A ditch is best, protecting the back of your head with your arms. Get as far away from trees and cars as you can. They may be blown onto you in a tornado. Winter storms include ice storms and blizzards. An ice storm may occur when the temperature is just below freezing. During this storm, precipitation falls as rain but freezes on contact with the ground. A coating of ice forms on the ground and makes it very hazardous to the traveler. Snowstorms with high winds and low temperatures are called blizzards. The wind blows at 35 miles per hour or more during a blizzard, and the temperature may be 10 degrees Fahrenheit or less, increasing the risk of exposure injuries. Blowing snow makes it difficult to travel because of low visibility and drifting. An aware IP will be prepared to weather the storm, meet their needs, and use the conditions to cover their movements during evasion. Often these storms paralyze local citizens and municipal services, creating opportunities for the IP. Hurricane or typhoons, which are the same type of weather system with the name change due to location on the planet, has a far more widespread pattern than a tornado. The storms form near the equator over the oceans and are a large low-pressure area, about 500 miles in diameter. Winds swirl around the center of the storm at speeds over 75 miles per hour and can reach 190 miles per hour. Hurricanes break up over land and often bring destructive winds and floods. Thunderstorms often form within hurricanes and can produce tornadoes. Most hurricanes occurring in the United States sweep over the West Indies and strike the southeastern coast of the country. An early indication of a hurricane is a wind from an unusual direction. The arrival of high waves and swells at sea coming from an unusual direction may also give some warning. The high waves and swells are moving faster than the storm and may give several days' warning. These swells can create a storm surge that can inundate low-lying areas upon landfall, and IP should move to higher ground early for protection. The severe winds, rain, and surf associated with hurricanes and typhoons can be both a danger and benefit to the IP. Movement is easily concealed within the storm, but precautions must be taken to preserve life. Storm surge near a shoreline is by far the most hazardous aspect of this type of event and can be dangerous for days. Weather forecasting enables IP to make plans based on probable changes in the weather. Forecasts help IP decide what clothes to wear and type of shelter to build. During an evasion situation, it may help IP determine when to travel. While accurate weather prediction or forecasting normally requires special instruments, an awareness of changing weather patterns and attention to existing conditions can help an IP or evader prepare for and, when appropriate, use changing weather conditions to enhance their survivability. The following are some elementary weather indicators which could help predict the weather and help save lives. The types of clouds that form above 20,000 feet above Earth include cirrus, wispy, delicate-looking clouds that are the sign of an approaching warm front. Cirrocumulus, a layer of tiny individual clouds, which look like scales on a fish, hence the term mackerel sky, indicating unsettled weather. Cirrostratus, an opaque, almost see-through, sheet or layer of clouds, usually indicating the approach of rain within a day or so.
The types of clouds that form between 7,000 and 20,000 feet above Earth include cumulus, puffy cotton ball or cauliflower-shaped clouds, indicating fair weather. Altocumulus, composed of parallel bands or rounded masses, with a distinct shaded area, which may indicate thunder showers on a warm, humid day. Altostratus, a uniformly light gray sheet of clouds, indicating continuous rain or snow. The types of clouds that form closest to the Earth's surface, below 7,000 feet include stratus, a uniformly flat, horizontal, layered cloud, most often associated with fog. Nimbostratus, a formless, uniformly dark gray layer of clouds that produce light to moderate precipitation. Stratocumulus, a lumpy layer of clouds varying from light to dark gray, that typically produces drizzle or intermittent rain either when bad weather is on the way or when the weather is just about to clear. One type of cloud formation that grows vertically and may extend beyond the tropopause is the cumulonimbus. These are thunder clouds, which can form as individual clouds or as a line of towers, called a squall line, and are associated with severe weather, including hail, lightning, tornadoes, as well as rain and snow. Notice the anvil to the top right of the cloud that helps define the cumulonimbus formation. Low-hanging clouds over mountains can mean a weather change, especially if they are on the upwind side. If they get larger during the daytime, bad weather will arrive shortly. Diminishing clouds mean dry weather is on its way. Storms are often preceded by high thin cirrus clouds arriving from the west. When these thicken and are obscured by lower clouds, the chances increase for the arrival of rain or snow. The isolated personnel who meets friendly people, or at least those willing, to some degree, to provide aid, is indeed fortunate. Immediate return to home, family, or home station, however, may be delayed. When in direct association with even the friendliest of people, it is essential to maintain their friendship. Isolated personnel. These people may be of a completely different culture in which a commonplace American habit may be a gross and serious insult. In other instances, the friendly people may be active insurgents in their country and constantly in fear of discovery. Every isolated personnel action, in these instances, must be appropriate and acceptable to ensure continued assistance.
A state of war need not exist for an isolated personnel to encounter hostility in people. Contact with hostile people must be avoided. If captured, regardless of the political or social reasons and the isolated personnel's legal status, the isolated personnel must make all efforts to adhere to the Code of Conduct and the legal obligations of the UCMJ, the Geneva Conventions, and DoD and USAF policy. The isolated personnel should consider all factors before contacting unknown people. Some primitive cultures and closed societies still exist in which outsiders are considered a threat. In other areas of the world, differing political and social attitudes can place an isolated personnel at risk in contacting unknown people. Chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear and explosive conditions may occur during combat operations. Events create life-threatening conditions from which an isolated personnel needs immediate protection. The longevity of conditions further complicates an isolated personnel's other needs, decisions, and actions. A morning rainbow is often followed by rain. An afternoon rainbow often means unsettled weather, while an evening rainbow can mark a passing storm. A faint rainbow around the sun may precede colder weather. Stormy weather may follow within hours when flowers seem to have increased their fragrance. The flowers of many plants, like the dandelion, will close as humidity increases and rain is approaching due to the change in temperature with an updraft associated with a thunderstorm. People say when sounds are clear, rain is near, because sound travels farther before storms. Even birds can help predict the weather. Water birds may fly lower than normal across the water when a storm is approaching. Birds will huddle close together before a storm. As humidity increases, the rocks in high mountain areas will sweat and provide an indication of forthcoming rain. Smoke, rising from a fire then sinking low to the ground, can indicate that a storm is approaching.
Even with the modern equipment available, forecasting tomorrow's weather is often difficult. By understanding the basic characteristics that affect development of weather phenomena, the IP can take action to better prepare for and take advantage of its effects and how to meet the IP mission. Thank you for watching.
Von Sprachversagen, denn seine Sprache ist dahin. Ich kann nicht tun, als dich beklagen, weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin. Ich kann nicht tun, als dich beklagen, weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin. Weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin, weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin. Die Königin begnadigt dich, entlässt die Strafe durch mich. Nun plaudert Papageno wieder. Plaudere, lüge nur nicht wieder. Ich lüge nimmer mehr, nein, nein. Dies Schloss soll deine Wohnung sein. Dies Schloss soll meine Wahl sein. Soll meine Wahl sein. Bekämen doch die Gegner alle ein solches Schloss vor ihrem Mund. Schafft aus Nein, du schwarze Galle. Bestünde niemand Bruder und Schafft aus Nein, du schwarze Galle. Bestünde niemand Bruder und Prinz, nimm dies Geschenk von mir, besegnet unser Fest in dir. Die Zauberflöte will dich schützen, im größten Unglück unterstützen. Wie wild kannst du allmächtig handeln, der Menschen Leidenschaft verwandeln, der Traurige wird freudig sein, denn alle Stolz mit dir ein. So eine Flöte ist mehr als Gold und Kronen wird, denn durch sie wird Menschenglück und Zufriedenheit vermehrt. Schönen Frauenzimmer, darf ich, so empfehl ich mich. Dich empfehlen kannst du immer, doch bestimmt die Fürstin dich, mit dem Prinzen unverweinen, nach Sarastos zu eilen. Nein, dafür bedank ich mich, von euch selbsten hörte ich, dass ihr wie ein Tigertier sich ließ ohne alle Gnade mit Rast, Rufen, Braten, setzte mich den Hunden hier. Die schönste Prinzfrau im Allen, dafür sollst du sein Diener sein. Dass doch der Prinz mein Teufel wäre, mein Leben ist mir lieb. Am Ende schleicht bei meiner Ehre ihr von mir wie ein Dieb. Hier nimm dies Kleinod, es ist dein. Ei, was mag da drinnen sein? Darin wirst du Glöckchen tönen. Werd ich sie auch wohl spielen können? Oh, ganz gewiss, ja, gewiss. Silberglöckchen, Zauberflöte, sind zu unser Schutz vonnöten. Lebet wohl, wir wollen gehen. Lebet wohl, auf Wiedersehen. schöne Damen, saget an, wo man die Burg wohl finden kann. Wo man die Burg wohl finden kann, wo man die Burg wohl finden kann.